I want to leave them with a takeaway. So I want you to think about your takeaway. My takeaway that I want to leave with the audience is this. If you are set up to prosper in the medical marijuana market now, that means that you are probably set up if they want to play these games. Corey, you brought up some good points. What is your takeaway that people should take with them?
It's not as simple as let's legalize cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got to think of the second, third, fourth, fifth orders of effect. How many people, who is impacted after it happens?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the show, welcome to the show. Here to give you knowledge that you didn't know. Put you on some game, now you got a buzz. You are now listening to Cannabis.
Hey, we already done came up.
Hey,
we done came up from last time, right?
Came up. Hey, man, we got to go ahead and welcome you. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Now, this right here is the Cannabis podcast. Y'all already know what's going on. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, all that, man. Share it with somebody. You know a whole bunch of business owners that's doing everything wrong in the cannabis industry, and we just trying to give you some free game. And you can also contact us to get some even further game beyond that, right? So you know what's going on, man. How you feeling?
Man, I feel great. I feel good. We are here in person finally, man. It's just like, it's exciting. You're going to see me cheesing a lot, man, because I'm just trying to live in the moment.
Man, but we don't want to waste none of their time. We getting straight to it because there's some stuff at hand. What are we talking about today?
So the Cannabis media is now teamed up with weed and whiskey.
Let's go. We hype, baby.
It's huge, man. It's huge. So we're going to be a part of Weed and Whiskey TV.
Yep.
You also catch us on the Weed and Whiskey News.
Yep.
And we're about to have this big, it's going to be huge, man. I was going to say smorgasbord, but I don't even know if that's the right word. But it's going to be a huge experience. You're going to get a chance to see us in a different light. And that's going to be a fun time. And what's that actually going to be called, Jarrell?
Man, we have look, this is exclusive right here, so make sure y'all know. It will be called the Cannabis Experience. Cannabis Experience. We're talking about us experiencing parts of the game, and the game gets a chance to experience the Cannabis. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing. I don't even know if we really want to hype them up for it, but y'all just make sure y'all watch out. Go ahead and register at weedandwhiskey.tv for your free membership. You know, make sure that you show some love. Yeah, free 99, man. What's better than that? Go head on over to weedandwhiskey.tv and make sure that y'all actually register, get your account set up, and be ready for the very first episode of the Cannabis Experience coming to you this October.
Gonna be a special one, so make sure you
going
tune in.
Down. All right. So yeah, man, that's just a little word on the street for y'all, but we can go ahead and put you on a little bit of game today. Today, what's going on, and this is the headline: the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, or the HHS, is officially recommending that marijuana be moved from Schedule 1 over to Schedule 3 under federal law, right? So we know this is a historic development. That means that top health agency no longer considers cannabis to be a drug with high abuse potential and no medical value. Simply not true. So we're glad that they're making strides, man. How you feel about that?
My initial official feeling was, let's go!
Let's go, yeah.
Hey,
man.
I was like, no more 280E for the businesses that, you know, if you don't know what 280E is, pretty much is a monster that's eating up a lot of the money on the tax side for many of these cannabis businesses, right? So it's like, bro, you can save potentially up from 35 to 50% of your overall revenue and put that back into your business, man.
Right.
I said that's huge. That's going to allow for many businesses to actually grow and use those funds for growth. It's one of the barriers of entry already. So
right.
To have those funds back, especially for the minority businesses, that's huge. Secondly, I said it's going to be great for the medical research side, because now doctors in the U.S., doctors, you know, us understand at the state level, but federally, you know, doctors can actually take the time to research the
That's
products.
a big part.
And I was just thinking about not only the citizens but the veterans, how that positively impacts them, because now the research that's going into it can be used to help combat the war on drugs that the veterans are facing with the opioid crisis and so on and so forth.
Yeah, no,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's my initial take on it.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna get your take on it, and before I even hop into the other side.
First thing I thought of, and I can't even lie to you, is my Harvest AF side. You know, Peter Parker and Spider-Man, right? My Peter Parker side, the side of me that, you know, puts on the tie and the suit and everything and get the crunching numbers on your behalf. It was like, wait a minute. The reason we got into this industry on the financial consulting side is because there was so many people that were, some people say, abused by 280E, right? So, you know, they weren't able to take those typical business deductions. And my first thought was that was our niche, that was our specialty, to say that we actually can help those businesses understand 280E and work alongside 280E, realizing that it's not going nowhere. Well, guess what? We're at a day and age right now where I guess it's going somewhere, right?
God,
Hopefully.
God,
Yeah, but
God.
now, you know, if it moves from Schedule 3, unless they move the goalposts and try to redo 280E, it's non-existent now. And
Crazy.
bro, these are my first thoughts. I'm letting them know, I'm giving you the raw, right? So my first idea was, bro, unless they move the goalposts, and I don't want to be a hater. We are champions of cannabis businesses all around. But yeah, man, that was my first thought. And then I then started looking at it from the areas of impact, right? And so I really want to talk with the people today about the areas of impact. For me, let me start with the economic impact. So there's good and bad elements to what this transition would do for the people as a whole, right? So you got to look at what state government has put in place as far as their programs, their cannabis programs, some medicinal, some recreational, some both, whatever the case may be, in state by state. And they have been able to increase their tax revenue. That's a good one. They've been able to create more jobs. So a move like this overall federally, right, is going to create more jobs, which is impacting not only just, we talk a lot about social equity and people that are disproportionately affected communities, right? And we talk about that, but it also helps everybody that's looking for a job in cannabis, you know, so job creation. And then there's also the legal cannabis industry growth, right? And the truth of the matter is you were speaking about how for the veterans, you know, it's good on their end because basically of measurements, like, you know, measurement being a big thing. And I think that's huge because we talk about why cannabis is not legalized. Some experts may say, oh, well, because alcohol, they always like to compare it to alcohol. Alcohol, there's a breathalyzer, right? There's ways where you can say, this is what a shot would do, you know? And so we want to find the equivalent of that in cannabis to prove to them, one, way less harmful than alcohol, and that's just the facts. And there's other things that need to be measured so you can prove the fact, right? And I think that's a big part on top of other innovations. The bad side, in my opinion, would be large corporation domination, right? So that's when you have the big companies that come in to buy up a emerging industry like cannabis, right? So when it comes to cannabis, that's what a lot of people that got it out the mud, the grassroots movement, that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of somebody coming in and we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna offer you got a license? Let's offer you, $50K that you wouldn't have had.
Right.
Just for that license. Even the social equity applicants, they're in danger too. What happens to those programs? Those are some of the things. Also, there's a lot of unpatented stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. That's a great point. After my initial opinion or thought process, I was like, okay, well, let me do some research, right? Because, you know, I'm excited for the immediate impact of it going from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. But then I was like, what does Schedule 3 mean?
What does Schedule 3 mean?
I had to think about it. I was like, I really don't know. So I had to do some research. So to transition from a Schedule 1, which is a Schedule 1 drug possesses the highest potential for disorder and misuse. They have no medical use and are illicit or street drugs. So some examples of some Schedule 1 drugs
give them some.
include heroin, LSD, mescaline, MDMA or ecstasy, and methaqualone, which I don't know what that is. But it sounds like a Schedule 1 drug.
Sounds like a good time.
But the main one, which is the topic of discussion today, is marijuana.
Of course.
So it's legal in some states, but it's still classified as a Schedule 1 drug. Okay? So then that's the Schedule 1, and now it's transitioning to a Schedule 3.
Right.
So a Schedule 3 drug, they have a lower misuse potential than Schedule 1 and 2. And drugs in this category may cause physical dependence, but more commonly lead to psychological dependence. Medications in this category are often used for pain control or anesthesia or appetite suppression. Some examples of some Schedule 3 substances include bensphetamine, ketamine, phendimetrazine, and some anabolic steroids and testosterone, right? Opioid analgesics in this schedule, including products containing no more than 90 milligrams of codeine per dosage unit, and I can't even say that one.
Some other stuff that don't sound that harmful.
I ain't even gonna lie, man. I ain't a doctor.
It's the Cannabis, baby.
So I can't say it, but ultimately it's opioids that contain no more than 90 milligrams of codeine per dosage unit.
Right.
So this is the big thing. Schedule 3 drugs are prescribable verbally over the phone with a paper prescription or EPCS, and within a 6-month time frame, refill requirements are such that the drug can only have 5 refills. So I wanted to really mention that last part, because if marijuana becomes a Schedule 3, right, it will become prescribable via over the phone and paper prescription, or in the within a 6 months time frame, you can only have up to 5 refills.
The question I have to what you're saying is, does that mean that federally they're following, the groundwork that's been laid by the states, when it comes to their medicinal programs for marijuana, or are they gonna, pull something out of a rabbit in the hat, And
see, that's the interesting thing about it, because this is ultimately a state versus federal conversation.
Exactly.
Right? So, though federally cannabis or marijuana is illegal, but it is considered legal in certain states. How does that work? How does the enforcement work and all that stuff? And when I was looking it up, it was actually because I was trying to figure it out. It's like, so if it becomes a Schedule 3, how does that coincide with the federal government saying, well, now you got to have a prescription to issue it, right?
Yeah.
But what does that change? And I realized it really doesn't change nothing in that sense, because it's already a Schedule 1, and the states are saying, well, bump that, it's legalized here.
Right.
And the DEA is not really enforcing it at the state level, because it's not having any type of impact on the national security or anything like that, right?
They knew that from the beginning.
Right.
It was never a threat.
But I do want to say this, now that we mentioned the DEA.
Yeah.
So the DEA and the FDA are the two major players when it comes to cannabis, right? When it comes to not just cannabis, but controlled substances. And so with marijuana being a Schedule 1, Food and Drug Administration took a backseat to the DEA, because they're like, look, it's not legal anyway, so there's no products for us to enforce, no products for us to really tests to make
Right.
sure it complies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the DEA was just like, all right, we're just gonna lock anybody up that got it if it's a Schedule 1, Schedule 2, right? But now that it becomes Schedule 3, now it's eligible for prescriptions. It's eligible to be at a federal level,
Right.
be provided to patients, right? And it's eligible for interstate commerce and so on and so forth, right? It can go from state to
Game
state.
changer.
Right, that's huge. That's a big
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
And so now the FDA will, in my opinion, move to the front, and the DEA will take a step back. It's like, well, why are we enforcing it?
Right.
Like, why would we go so hard on a product that people can really get access to federal?
Right. Yeah.
It's not. You know, there's people jaywalking.
Here's a guy jaywalking. Stop.
That's more important. And
Police and marijuana.
say it twice.
So I think that's interesting. And then I'll close on this piece right here. So now the FDA will now have the FDCA. So it's the Food, Drug, Cosmetics Act that they're playing off of. And what that does is it authorizes the FDA to oversee and regulate the production, sale, and distribution of food, drugs, medical devices, and cosmetics.
Call it all cannabis businesses. Are you ready to elevate your brand and connect with the brightest minds in the industry? Well, welcome to the Cannabis Podcast, baby, where collaboration and knowledge sharing are at the heart of what we do. We spotlight success stories and sharing valuable insights while breaking down the latest industry trends through engaging content, webinars, and the most unforgettable events. So now's your chance to shine. Become an ad partner or a sponsor of the Cannabis Podcast and unlock multi-episode sponsorship opportunities. Whether plant touching or ancillary, we welcome all cannabis businesses to join in this exciting journey with us. Don't miss out on your multi-platform sponsorship opportunity that'll bring your brand up to the spotlight. Connect, collaborate, and thrive with the Cannabis Podcast. Contact us today so we can explore partnership possibilities by visiting the website at thecannabis.com or reach out by way of thecannabis@gmail.com. Join us and become a part of something extraordinary. The Cannabis Podcast. Behind us comes the culture.
The FDCA intends to protect the general public from adulterated and misbranded products manufactured and sold in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that a lot when the 2018 Farm Bill came out.
Yep. You know, people gonna be going crazy when it comes to what they believe that cannabis can cure. That's right. So there's a war there, you know, and I really mean war because you're gonna have big pharma, right, versus the holistic medicine group, right, like and advocates, right. So now we're talking about, hey, no, I got a pill for this, and you're like, nah, you just got to smoke that out, good buddy. You know what I mean? And that's where we've been. But now, I would say I think the dynamic changes, and I also think that you'll definitely have more people who can outwardly and proudly say, I support marijuana, I support cannabis, right? And I think that's such a big thing. I think we'll get closer to a little bit more truth out there, you know, and people don't like that when it comes to big pharma and politicians. The same, they're not really for just necessarily telling you the truth. They tell you what you need to hear, right? So now what is the message, the public message that's going out? It's going to be a fight, and I think that's the war at hand. And so you're going to have some government officials that are like, well, in our state, this is how we're handling this. Being in a state like Texas, which we are currently in right now, they might be fighting tooth and nail just to say, hey, we like it the way it was. But there's good people in Texas, good characters in the game that are really trying to change things. Go from the social element, the healthcare issue and the healthcare implications over to the political landscape. And I think that's where we have to ask ourselves, is this timing just by chance, coincidence maybe? Or the fact that we are coming up to election season and we're already starting to see politicians drop their hottest singles for the upcoming album, you know what I mean? Is this gonna be used to get someone elected, or is this going to be what's used for against someone, right? To say, hey, you know, that's why you don't want to vote for them, right? Whether they are pro or anti-canna. I think there's an element to that. What do you think about it on the political landscape?
Man, there's a few reasons why I don't think it's going to pass. It may pass the House, but it won't pass in the Senate. Cannabis is a really segmented market, right? So think of it like a plate of glass or a glass pane. You get a bowling ball and just like, bow, you just shatter it.
Okay.
That's the cannabis movement, right? That's the cannabis industry. There's not a cannabis industry because there's multiple industries within it, right?
Right.
And so rescheduling versus descheduling, you have legalization versus decriminalization, even though it can happen at the same time. You have people that are pro-hemp, anti-marijuana, or you have pro-medicinal marijuana, anti-recreational use.
Right.
There's so many different facets of cannabis and people that are supporting different segments of it, that rescheduling is just going to piss off many of the other people that are in different states or different organizations. So in a political sense, right, they're going to be looking down at their party, or they're going to be looking at their constituents and so on and so forth, people that voted for them, and they're going to have to advocate on those factors. Some people are like, hey, well, we need expungement to happen before the safe banking happens. And, you know, there's so much in that I don't think the politicians are going to be able to come together enough to say, we all agree, or the majority of us agree, that Schedule 3, it should be rescheduled from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3. I don't think in this scenario it's going to happen. And the biggest reason is Big Pharma. I think Big Pharma, because what this allows is Big Pharma to come into play.
Yeah.
So right now we don't have many big, insert here, big alcohol, big tobacco, big and Big Pharma in the industry, right? So once Big Pharma now has access to put its hands around the industry, that allows them to, and you mentioned it earlier, swallow up many of the small businesses at play, right? And so once the small businesses are acquired, right, or priced out based on a competition, right, they just can't keep up, or priced out due to the FDA making the cost to be compliant much higher, right? Once the FDA gets involved and so on and so forth, the small business is going to be not immediately, but eventually wiped out. And it's going to be Big Pharma there. It's going to be Pfizer in there prescribing cannabis. And that's not what the industry wants. That's not what the people want. And America is built off of small businesses. And so because of that, I don't think it's going to pass.
I disagree with your ass. I disagree with you because, let me tell you, for the exact reasons you pointed out, I'm still going, there's lawmakers and there's people that got to obey the laws. They ain't the same. They ain't the same. They're going, yeah, all those reasons is why we want this to pass, so Big Pharma can get its hands on it and make a lot of money. Y'all would like us to believe that the small businesses are what drives the country. We would like to give you this at Walmart. And yeah,
a Walmart pharmacy in line to pick up your prescription.
Yeah, to pick up 250 milligrams, to pick up, like, you would literally be in the line to pick that up next to the person with their blood pressure medication. Like, and what you're saying sounds like us, sounds like the industry, sounds like the people that actually want to have a voice behind this. But we can do the best that we can lobbying and going to the steps of the Capitol in your state and doing all of that. And we've seen it play out differently for many different areas of many different topics or subjects of debate in this country. So I simply don't have the faith, and this is why I disagree with you. I don't have the faith that what the people want is always what passes or what doesn't pass.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
But I think so. You have to take into account all the policies that have to come into play if they go to Schedule 3, right? What's stopping? So let's say it's rescheduled to Schedule 3. Now it has to be the FDA has to create policies to for the corporations to follow, as well as policies to get the product from the business all the way down to the consumer, right? That's going to take a lot of time, a lot of nuances, right? Because now the FDA has to come in and say, well, this is the standard cannabis or marijuana that can be issued to the individual. So the only one of a few products that's been blessed off by the FDA is Epidiolex, and that's for individuals that have really bad seizures, right?
Yep.
So other than that, there is no standard the FDA has when it comes to marijuana. So they have to figure all of that out before any type of marijuana can be issued to the lowest level, right? From the big pharma or whoever, right?
Okay.
I think that because there's going to be a lot of differing opinions on what is deemed compliant cannabis, it's not going to pass. And that's why a lot of players in the industry are deeming that a different entity or that cannabis itself is being how is the compliance agency that's handling it is not the FDA or it's being regulated like alcohol and tobacco.
Right.
It's not, because it's not, cannabis isn't Tylenol. Cannabis isn't anabolic steroids.
Right.
It's not ketamine, right? So therefore, it should have its own lane on how it's compliant, it's being regulated.
Jinx.
Yeah. Because marijuana is a Schedule 1,
Right.
it's subject to IRC 280E, which is Internal Revenue Code 280E.
That's right.
So what that means is any business in the process of trafficking a Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 does not get the benefits of taking any deductions or credits for their business.
Like a typical business.
Right. So, and trafficking is deemed as buying and or selling marijuana to any other type of entity, person or business. Let's say hemp. Let's do hemp versus marijuana because that's a topic that we get all the time, right? So hemp in the federal government's eyes is deemed 0.3% THC, Delta 9 THC and below.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So if it's anything more than 0.3% Delta 9 THC, is considered marijuana in the federal government's eye. You're a hemp business and your business makes $100,000. Because of the 2018 Farm Bill, it's now legalized federal. So you make $100,000 and then you have, let's say, $30,000 in expenses, right? So you write that off, right? So that $30,000 now becomes $70,000, right?
And that's your taxable income, right?
Right. Well, in a simplified form, you'll pay a percentage of that based off your tax bracket, right? So let's say we're just gonna say 35% is your tax bracket. Then you pay 35% of your taxable income, right? So versus if you're a marijuana business, right, or dispensary, cultivation, doesn't matter, right? That $100,000, if you have $30,000 in expenses, you don't get to write that $30,000 off. Even though in the reality, you only have $70,000, quote unquote, right? They're taxing you on that $100,000. And so if you get 35,000 times that 100,000, that's $35,000 that you're going to have to pay in taxes, right? And so that's the
difference maker. That's the flow.
Right. So just imagine 70,000 times 35% versus 100,000 times 35%, right? It's a difference. It's a big difference.
They know, it's
Yeah.
a difference. Like, yeah, you don't even have to be good at math to know that you don't want to pay. You want to pay on 100,000, or versus thinking that you were going to pay on 70 or 60 or whatever the number is. So you want to be able to take those deductions. That's what 280E prevents. So now we're talking about that being off the table and them being able to be treated like a normal business. So that brings some questions up to me that I had to put out to the audience, and we want y'all to drop some comments down below how you think it can be impacted in this way. So I thought to myself, I was like, what does that mean for the amount of state level tax relief? It's a state by state thing right now. Will we see the states hike up their tax rates on cannabis because they're going, oh, well, we were doing this because federally you are already hurting. A lot of the states claim that they're assisting the small businesses or the cannabis businesses, right? Because it's such a tax burden is so heavy on the federal side, they don't want to participate in that part. We want to help our people, right? So now what we see them go, well, why am I giving you a discount? It's like the fact, like it's like when you give a discount. Let's say we have a business that contacts us or a business contacts your business, right? And you're not off the relationship, but simply once you get into realizing, dang, they don't make that much, right? Because of other factors. I'm going to take it easy on them, right? And now you realize, what if that business that made 100,000 a year now makes 10 million a year? You still giving that discount?
You know what? I just thought about that. I haven't seen anybody talk about or discuss.
What's that?
If 280E is eliminated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's more federally legal, right? What's stopping the federal government from creating their own excise tax on cannabis?
Yep.
Because now it's more access to the plant, right? So if I'm Uncle Sam and I was like, damn, I lost out on tax revenue because my boy got eliminated.
Yeah.
My boy 280E.
Yeah, man.
Now, so let me do this. Let me create a federal excise tax on cannabis,
Right?
and charge that on top of all sales and all cannabis sales from marijuana,
Yeah.
and hemp.
Yeah.
Just bow.
Cannabis. Like, yeah, because again, that's what I'm saying. My next thing was 280E. Do you revamp or remove? Like, do they attempt to go, well, here's a new version at Schedule 3 level, but and how does that work? So a lot of these things that we're mentioning today are what we would like the lawmakers to take into consideration. I want to leave them with something before we head out. I want to leave them with a takeaway. So I want you to think about your takeaway. My takeaway that I want to leave with the audience is this: if you are set up to prosper in the medical marijuana market now, that means that you are probably set up if they want to play these games. Corey, you brought up some good points, and I think that that's how we should look at this. You think about who's set up. We've done this with businesses before. There's people going from the legacy market right into being a legitimate business and everything. It's certain things that give you a leg up when you have to make a transition,
Right.
And so the way I look at it is that the medical marijuana applicants, businesses, everybody that's already in place, if your state kind of encourage you to get on the good foot as far as medical marijuana, and that's the guidelines and everything that you're following, you probably winning. What is your takeaway that people should take with them once they click off after they subscribe?
Do your research, man. It's not as simple as let's legalize cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got to think of the second, third, fourth, fifth orders of effect. How many people, who is impacted after it happens?
Mm-hmm.
Similar to what we've been saying here, right? Our initial opinion was one thing, but after we start doing our research
and talking it
out, we start seeing like, oh, okay, well, it's going to impact far more individuals and businesses and it's going to impact in different ways than initially thought about. So
Mhm.
my takeaway from all of this is do your research. Don't just go after the face value, what's being presented in front of you.
Mhm.
Because just because it looks great, you got to look at that fine print. You got to look and see what that impact and how it impacts the industry as a whole.
Yep. We're the Cannabis. We just want to thank y'all for, of course, taking the time to sit down with us. Me and Corey actually sitting down together. So I want to thank y'all for sitting down with us. Little quick conversation with the Cannabis on the Cannabis podcast. Make sure you smash that like, share, subscribe button. And we would love to give the federal government eventually a Cannabis stamp of approval.
We talking about the
Bang!
Cannabis.
So there you have it, man. We'll holler at y'all later. This has been Jarrell
Corey,
of the Cannabis,
third.
and we out, man. Peace.
Yo, bye.
Welcome to the show, welcome to the show. Here to give you knowledge that you didn't know. Put you on some game, now you got a buzz. You are now listening to Cannabis.